I know why.
Ooh, we are live. We're live and
Oh.
direct.
They make it difficult to get to the live link.
No, it'll just pop up in the main window in the first thing.
Yep.
It'll literally be the first thing that comes
I
up.
clicked on that, and it's our episode from last week.
Are you going to our?
No, because you clicked on the wrong one. You clicked on last week's. So now that we are live,
it says
we'll
live
be able
now
to
on
hear.
my screen.
Yep.
So this is when I shouldn't say things like. Right?
Yeah, probably
there it
not, dude.
Okay. Yeah.
Probably
it.
not.
Okay. So,
All right.
you guys ready?
Ready?
Yeah, let's do
What's
this.
Welcome.
Jason's
to,
like, we've been ready for months.
Welcome to Driving Well Awesome. My name is Warren,
I am Lane.
I'm Art.
And I'm Brian.
and we are joined by a special guest. Special guest, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Jason Cammisa. Otherwise known as
Jason.
hashtag discount Sandler, apparently.
Apparently.
That works.
No, people really latch onto that, don't they?
You know, I don't really actually look like Adam Sandler until you put a camera in front of me, and then apparently I look like Adam Sandler. So whatever.
There's
I
definitely, I know I wouldn't say it, but there's definitely some pictures, and you're like, that could be Adam Sandler right there.
Did we invite Adam Sandler on our rally? Is that something? Oh
That's
no.
right.
So
dude.
that's something you guys would do, and
would.
frankly, I would
Dude.
go just to dispel the rumor. And
You wouldn't come though.
No, I have never seen an Adam Sandler movie.
What
What?
the fuck?
One of the comments on my on Instagram where I asked people to ask questions was like, "Well, you're really going for the Sandler vibe."
Yeah, I
on
saw that.
picture."
But
I
by the
don't
way,
even know what
you had to go out of your way to avoid an Adam Sandler movie. That's
Yeah.
like almost impossible.
Yeah.
I kind
They're
of
so
avoided most
good.
movies.
Avoid most movies. All right, let's get into this. Come on. What's your favorite movie?
Favorite movie? Wow.
I think the only way that this could have happened is if
Serendipity.
Cammisa is blind. Actually, are you
Oh,
blind?
that's
I
what
am
describes it.
dark and you are light. You are blind as a. I know. I think I spent most of my life working and not watching movies.
Oh.
Dude,
But what about airplanes?
Come
Airplane is the
on.
Okay, Airplane, Christmas Vacation.
No, I'm saying
No,
on
he's saying
airplanes
when you
you're
fly.
No, but Airplane is the best movie of all time. It's the funniest
Oh,
movie.
that's funny.
Airplanes, I watched either TV shows or I work. Typically when I was flying anywhere, I was on the way back from a press launch, which meant that there was
You're
some
snoozing.
schmuck editor of mine going, as soon as you touch the ground, I'd better have that story. So I just worked.
Well, you had to get there too,
Yeah, that was the research. That's
I
when you
see.
download I watched some of Game of Thrones.
Oh, here
I
we
would
go.
Download some
Okay.
TV shows and watch
Yeah.
them, but movies,
So what you're saying is you've maybe watched a dozen movies in your lifetime.
no.
Is that what
a
you're
little
saying?
more than that. A little more than that. Maybe 2 dozen.
This is crazy.
Maybe
Not
two
much
dozen.
more than that. It's pretty sad.
How's
way.
things going in your world, Jason? The last 3 months or whatever it's been.
It's great. Everything's great. Look, I'm working. I don't have the coronavirus, so I really can't complain about anything. I mean, this is a very strange time for all of us. For me personally, it's been busier than normal because I have to figure out ways that I can create content without actually being able to do it. So it's been
Yeah, I was gonna say, because you do seem to be cranking them out. I mean, the car reviews and everything keep coming, and that's got to be a bit stressful to be on the hook for coming up with all this new stuff. And you're still on the hook now more than ever. People want to see this stuff probably, and yet you're confined to a single space more or less.
I mean, I had to make some adjustments. So I had a minimum number of miles I would put on any press car that I would have for the week. And I drew it as 100, which doesn't sound like much, but in the Bay Area, I can get from here to anywhere, any one of the places that I go and back in less than 20 miles. There's no way, I can't, where am I going? I'm not going anywhere. So the number of miles that I put on every car is plummeted. But I still have to spend enough time with it that I can give it my hashtag Cammisa verdict or whatever, the stupid Instagram review.
Oh, you're calling it a Cammisa verdict?
I had to.
He
Isn't
has
that-
been.
Wait,
Oh,
I had
okay.
to for a reason. And it's
Do you give it a Cammisa score?
No.
I like
This
If I
idea.
could
I think
only
a
hit you
Cammisa
with
score would be great.
with
What's
a
wrong with
mallet
Cammisa
right now.
score? No, that's a good
How
thing,
long-
right?
How long
Because
did this
Brian
take
doesn't
me
know
to say
the
an
Brian
F
doesn't
word?
know the joke, dude.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
But also, I got to say that did you notice that he made it seem like he wasn't sure what it was called? Like
No,
someone
I really
else
couldn't
made
remember.
it up.
Listen,
Like-
the only reason I do it is because you can't search for anything on Instagram. So
Yeah.
I would love to have one sort of landing page where people can go and, because people are constantly like, hey, I'd love for you to do a review on X, and I've already done it. So I tag them all with hashtag Cammisa verdict so that you can just go to that hashtag and see
Yeah.
all.
No, that's a good idea.
That's what hashtags are for. That's why
the
they
idea.
exist.
Sort
Of course, I
exactly
can't
for
stop
the
anyone
reason.
else from tagging anything else. Like,
Yeah.
here's a picture of my foot.
But I like Art's
Mm.
to Art's point. It's Jason's the guy with the most meticulous spreadsheets of every mileage, oil change, and everything. And he's like, "What is it called again? Was it the Cammisa verdict or?"
Yeah.
Cammisa judgment. I don't know.
Cammisa, it was originally, I just wanted to call it like an Insta review, but
Yeah.
everyone
That's been
else
taken.
calls it that too. So then you can't find it.
Exactly. Well, I like them. I appreciate your reviews. I just want you to know.
No,
that.
they're great.
Thanks.
I think one of your reviews recently, I said, "I appreciate this review." That was my only comment.
You disagree with every word, but I appreciate the review.
No, no, what was it? I think it was, I don't know, Miata or something.
Whatever.
We're waiting
What's up
for
with-
some questions to come pouring in, but until then, this is not Jason's first go around on the podcast, so we don't need to get too much into backstory, but we can ask some questions. You up for it, y'all?
Depends.
Word.
Word to your mother. I'll just go with the first one here. Real J Branks. Oh man, Jason's going old school.
That's a friend of
You know,
mine. I don't know.
I know,
That
exactly.
May not count.
Jason, wagon question. Is the bulk of the depreciation curve of a 2-year-old Jaguar XF Sportbrake already passed if it's lost over 40K during that time frame? Please say yes, asking for a friend.
Okay, so this is my buddy Josh, whose girlfriend needs a car.
And he's been on the rally for those that, follow us. Dodge Colt, Del Sol. What else is he doing?
Josh's milieu is having the nicest preserved example of the most undesirable cars ever made.
Mazda Navajo, but it is a 2-door, which is pretty desirable.
To whom? People who live in trailer parks don't have room for a classic car. Anyway,
Pretty desirable.
kidding.
Of all Navajos, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
So Josh is in this on this mission to find something really cool for his girlfriend Perry, and he came up with the idea that she should have a Jaguar XF Sportbrake. And frankly, I can't disagree because it's a really cool car, but Jaguar priced it completely ridiculously. So they were like 80 grand when they should have been 55, which is what the equivalent F Pace was. And so now he found one, and he's trying to convince himself it's a great idea.
This is what Jay Lamb has, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
They have an XF.
yeah, Jay bought one new and he leased it and he said I would never buy this out of warranty, but I'm leasing it because it had a bunch of money on the hood. And by the way, Jason, is that a shooting brake? That's not a shooting brake.
It says
No, that's a
Sportbrake.
wagon. So
Okay, you
it's
call it
sport brake.
sport brake.
yeah, the
That's
sport brake
bullshit.
is a made up word. A shooting brake is a 2-door station wagon,
Yes, yes.
like a Ferrari FF or something.
Mhm.
But here's the deal.
Volkswagen Fox.
Yes, Fox was a 2-door wagon.
It's a
BMW
wagon,
M coupe?
exactly.
Shooting brake.
The Z3 M coupe, or
Yeah,
the Z3 coupe. But here's the thing: if the dealership is knocking $40,000 off the sticker of the car, that's what the car is worth now. Don't pretend that this is going to be a good investment from here on out.
Oh, right.
Like the car was a terrible investment. It will depreciate terribly. However, it's a car with, I think, like a 5 years left on its warranty because they're going to give him a CPO warranty on it. And so do I think he could do far worse in terms of depreciation? Absolutely. Could he do better? 100%. But it's still a cool car for 30 grand or whatever, 30 something $1,000
Yeah.
for that car. New effectively is a really good deal.
Dude, you don't see yourself in the parking lot either. Like you don't that's a very uncommon car to see, which is a big plus, I think.
And that's what he's going for typically, right? He wants unique, he wants rare,
He
and
just likes something
it
that's great to
checks those
drive.
boxes.
Right. And he wants it to be great to drive for the occasions that he does drive it. Here's the thing. Let's talk about Josh for a second. His current car that he gave to her is I'm told it's pronounced Compass, but we pronounce it
Oh,
Compass because it's somewhere in between the two of them.
Wow.
And so,
Those
frankly,
are so bad.
when he gave that to Perry, we're like, "Oh, so you're about to break up with her, right?" Like, it sucks. 'Cause really, there's no other
pretty
reason to
horrendous.
give anyone a Compass.
Which
No.
the new one? At least it's the new one. Please tell me it's the newer one.
It's the new one that's good looking and whatever, but it's a piece of shit. And he leased it
Ugh.
because it was like $1.75 a week on lease or something.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
anything's
Yeah.
next step up after that. Come on.
We have a someone who actually donated some money on YouTube chat. Vroomhilda says, if I can't find an E30 325i in decent condition for $10,000, would a 330 Ci still give a good engaging experience for spirited driving, track days, and wrenching?
That would be an E46 then.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
hard to compare. But
Yeah, it's not really comparable.
yeah. But I guess he's asking if he can get an engaging spirited driving track blah 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 experience out of it.
Definitely.
Yeah, it would do all those things.
And you get a
Yeah.
lot of car for 10K.
I mean, it's a great car for 10K. I have not driven a non-M3 E46 on track, and I suspect they would be piggish. But
Yeah.
So suspect what?
it'd be piggish. It'd be very understeery and very heavy, and it would go through tires and brakes a lot.
So Brian has
and
one that's
has-
dialed in.
Yeah.
And he's
it's-
raced an E30. So I guess what's what's your feedback on that?
My main feedback after coming back from the track day in mine was that at a modern track day, if you're in a more advanced group, you're totally undergunned. Like, it's way too slow, basically. Everyone's flying up to you in Caymans and everything and passing you. So the main drawback for me was that it was kind of too slow. But the E30 is going to be even slower. I mean, it's super fun. It was, it's really engaging. Yeah, it's a little bit heavy, but and granted, I did put a lot of work and money into mine to get it set up. So without that, I think you're having trouble. Actually, I have another data point, which is the E36 M3. So I took my E36 M3 that was totally stock to Thunderhill, and I almost didn't have any fun with it. Like, I felt like it needed some tuning to be able to have fun. It was pushing, and I had shit tires on too. But I think
that's the big thing.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think you need tires,
so.
you need alignment,
You
and
need camber plates, right, to get that.
yeah, I mean, and I was coming from an E30 race car, basically, so maybe that's the problem with the comparison. But even with good tires, I feel like it's not gonna do what you want. I think the E36 M3s are perfect for the track, but that's because people put stuff into them.
Right.
Anyways, I think you're going to be even slower around a track with an E30. So my main gripe with the E46 is going to be even worse going back a couple
But
of
as a
years.
daily, like a E46 330i, especially if you get to ZHP as a daily driver, is one of the best, most interactive, fun cars you can buy.
That's
Yeah.
basically what
That's the
Brian
thing, right?
has.
It's like raw performance is one thing, but yeah, like, can it be engaging? Can it be fun, like on back roads and stuff
Absolutely.
like that? Sure. Especially with the proper alignment, good suspension, good tires. That's the thing. Like Brian's talking about driving. I mean, tires are everything for that situation. Like, because you have no front end grip. You have everything is totally off, right? Everything becomes unstable. You have no traction coming out of corners. Like, so the tire limitation there really throws the whole experience out the window. But yes, stock. I mean, those cars, especially at the limit, with the stock alignment, they're definitely a little understeer biased. But that's, I think the tires would have made a huge difference. I've autocrossed a stock E36 M3, and with good tires, like they're workable. I mean, you definitely stand on the nose a lot. You use the brakes a lot to make them rotate, but that's engaging and fun in a different way. But I think, I don't know, to answer this question though, the E30 versus a E46, you're talking about an experience that's way more insulated in the E46. The steering is totally different. You do have some good feedback, but nothing like an E30. And just the weight is a massive one, right? Like, it affects everything. And so I don't know. I think you can't compare them from that perspective. Like, if you're just going apples to apples, but standing on its own, E46 can be fun. That's kind of my summary on that.
Yeah, and
Definitely.
this is worth like a deeper dive. Like it is super interesting what the price points are at. I mean, if you look at you know, how much E30s have gone up and what's out there, like they're pretty rough, right? The ones that you do find, or they're, you know, 12K plus.
Yeah.
And then you look over at the price of the E46, and then of course the E36 is right in the middle. I mean, if you're talking 10 grand, that's like a super interesting spot for E30, E36 M3, and E46. And then when you get into E46, you can throw a few weird ones in there, like you could do like a convertible M3 or something, or yeah, I don't know. BMWs are in a really, BMW 3 Series is a weird spot right now where everything's almost the same value, the desirable ones.
Except for things like E30 M3s, you know.
Well, that's just out of the charts, right?
Yeah.
And E46 M3 is.
But as a daily driver, I mean, E46 is far safer than an E40. You know,
I
if
was
you
gonna
think
bring
sort
that
of
up.
practicality wise, they'll probably get, you know, similar gas mileage or better out of an E46. They're far safer in a crash. They have better, you know, they're just a better
They're
car.
more
'cause it's,
comfortable, yeah.
you know, 25 years newer.
Yeah, exactly.
But you know, to Art's point, yeah, E30 is more fun, but an E46 is probably a better overall daily transportation device, and it gains more in the daily usability than it loses in the fun department, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like, I'd have a
And
ZHP in a second as a daily.
The ZHP
So-
is a good point because I think you're kind of close there. You might find a high mileage, well maintained one for 10, 11, you know, these days. So that's a possibility.
And
Go
that's
ahead,
got
Tyler.
the collectability part going for it too.
Mhm.
If you buy a ZHP specifically, then you know, if you're just looking at E46 330, the collectability is 0. But toss in a few extra grand for the ZHP, and all of a sudden, maybe you're on par with an E30 actually.
Yeah.
Hey Jason, you've driven both, I'm sure, but E30 or E46 ZHP, how much better is that steering rack?
A lot. I mean, here's the unfortunate thing is the only ZHP I've ever driven is an automatic. And I was so like, when I got in it, and I was so upset that it had an automatic on it. But then I was like, ooh, 7,000 RPM redline, it's ZHP. I made it 3 feet and was like touching myself. It's really good. And regular.
Because I feel like I'd pay $3,000 just for a sharper steering, you know?
I would too.
A quicker rack, yeah.
E46s is that they were kind of all over the place. Early cars were kind of dead and steering and overboosted, and then they got too heavy, and then they fixed it towards the end. But I think ZHP really, if you look at total cost of ownership, you're probably better off owning a ZHP in the long term because of that collectability. If it's $1,000 or $2,000 more, it'll probably be worth 3,000 or 4,000 more when you're done putting 100,000 more miles on it. And so your real cost is, you got to lay it out to begin with if you can do it. But I think your money's better placed in a ZHP, and it's the regular E46. Even a non-sport pack is a wonderful car to drive, but sport pack fixed a lot of the like terrible seat issues and stuff like that, and then ZHP just turned it into the 3 Series that we all dreamed that E46 should be.
Okay, moving on. Bobby Reed on YouTube is asking, would Jason ever rock a vintage mini truck? If so, which one?
Vintage mini truck is in like the Isuzu Pup that I had for 4 years.
Oh, there it is.
That's probably
Actually, it's a pit up. We've talked about this.
Old Tacomas are great looking. I kind of like old Nissan trucks are great. I'm not a huge truck person.
Yeah.
I have a new Tacoma outside my house right now. It's a press car with a snorkel, and I think it's really great looking. I don't know why it needs a snorkel. Factory or something. It's TRD. It says TRD on it, but it's a press car. This is owned by Toyota Press. But I like trucks. I don't really have any preference for one over the other because I just don't have that much experience with them.
Okay, so it's a pickup, a Isuzu Pep, or no? Let's see. Thomas Illick says, Jason, did you ever get your e-golf wheels sorted out? I think I'm going to put my stalkers back on and sell the thing, sadly.
Somebody's selling e-golf? All right. I have like 10 friends that want one right now. So by way of explanation, I had a 2016 e-golf that I leased. And then at the end of the lease, I couldn't bear the thought of life without an e-golf. So I bought one. And because I own it, the first thing I had to do was start modifying it. So the first thing I did was put 18-inch Seren wheels, which were the GTI Autobahn wheels from the Mark VI. And I called Michelin and I was like, all right, so here's the deal. I kind of want Pilot Sport PS4Ss on this car. But I kind of think that's stupid. And I kind of think all Pilot Sport all season 3 pluses would be probably
Why
enough
would it be stupid?
because of what it was going to do to range, which
Right.
I had no idea. So
Yeah.
so I wound up putting PS4Ss on my car and then PSAS3 pluses on my mom's Golf. So I bought my mom a Golf 1.8 turbo Wolfsburg, and I bought 2 sets of used Serens. Thank you, Facebook Marketplace, and gave her the all season 3 pluses and put the Pilot Sport 4Ss on mine. So my car's rated EPA range at 125 miles, and I was getting 140 plus basically in normal driving. And now I'm getting like 99, 98, 94.
Oh,
So
Dang, that's dramatic.
yeah, part of that could be I went from 16 to 18s and the wheels are heavier, but
Oh yeah.
heavier wheels don't make much of a difference in efficiency on electric cars. Weight overall is mostly irrelevant because you got to think about it this way. All of the electricity you use, you're turning into momentum. So you're propelling that car, and that energy is now stored as momentum, which you can get back under regenerative braking. So heavy wheels, there's obviously a loss in taking that energy out of the battery and then putting it back in, but it's relatively small. So I don't think the efficiency gain the efficiency drop has anything to do with the weight of the wheels. I went from 205 width to 225 width. That'll make a difference.
Yeah.
And then I went from an Eco Bridgestone EP422 Ecopias, which are a very low rolling resistance tire, to Pilot Sport 4Ss. So, I mean,
Sticky,
And your tire
resistant.
pressure,
Yeah.
right? Because the Ecopias are like 50 pounds or something.
so the stock is 42 all
Okay.
around. Actually, I think it's 41 on the new car. They dropped it. But then, so I'm running GTI pressures, which I think are 39 and 40 somewhere in there. So I didn't change it
Oh,
all.
it's that
Yeah,
high.
that's the same.
But here's the thing. So you guys are hearing this first because I haven't published this yet, but I put the V-Box in the car and I went out and drove like an asshole. For science, I did a bunch of experiments. And there's an on-ramp by my house that is admittedly very, very slightly banked. It's pretty level, but it drops 2.5 stories and over a 270-degree run. And so I just kind of took it out, and the car pulled so much grip the first time I did it that I genuinely was afraid I was going to have broken, like, ripped the wheel off. Like, scared the shit out of me. Like, this can't possibly be right. Put the V-Box in the car, and it pulled 1.20 G over a 5
Dang.
And this isn't, we're not talking peak. So when we do skid pad measurements, typically what we do is do either a full 360-degree circle, or we'll take like a 3-second window and say, every magazine processes differently. Car and Driver does, for example, 300-foot in diameter skid pad, and it's 1 full lap. And that takes a couple seconds. So you get an initial spike of grip, and then the tires kind of get a little warm and things settle down and it reduces. And then after a full lap or something, it starts to fade off as the tires overheat and start to crumble. The 1.20 G average was over a 5-second window. So this is a long time. So it takes out any peak, weird peaks and whatever else. And I thought, well, that's bullshit. There's no way it's that much. And so then I did this big 90-degree left-hand turn right in front of a police station. That's by my house. But I did it late enough at night that no one was there. And it was from turn in, basically, when the car settled, until turn out, which was 1.9 seconds or 2.1 seconds, I think it was, average 1.17. And I was like, okay, so this is like legit. I've made my Instagram post about this because I've yet to find a 200-foot traffic circle that I can go to safely. I found that there's a 70-foot in radius traffic circle by my house that I did at 3 o'clock in the morning, and it pulled 1.05. So it's safe to say this car's skid pad grip is fucking outrageous with these tires on. They're unbelievable tires. And so what I don't know is whether or how much of the degradation in range is coming from the fact that I'm driving like a complete maniac on this car.
Right.
I can pass everyone on the outside and the inside. Like, it's like driving, basically it pulls about as much grip as my E30 did with my 3-degree negative camber alignment on our compound tires. So, so what I'm doing now is I just swapped over I gave my mom my e-golf wheels, poor thing, she's a trooper. And I'm doing a 3-way scientific experiment. So I have 2 friends that are bringing their e-golfs over. One will be a completely stock e-Golf. One will be mine, which is the Pilot Sport PS4S's. And the third will be those identical wheels, 18-inch Sedans with Pilot Sport All Season 3 Pluses. We'll charge all 3 cars. We'll go for, an 80 or 90 mile drive, and we'll charge all 3 at the same time, either on simultaneously at like charge point or on my charger at home, which measures actual power going. So I'll see what the final range hit actually is on a scientific basis. But I
That's
think
cool.
And this guy forgot his Instagram reviews, what they were called.
No, this is good work right now, because everybody, and there's a lot of them, who is jumping into an e-Golf, that's like, they're immediately so fun to drive that's the first thing you think of. It's like, oh my God, just sticky tires on this thing. What would it do? And yeah, that's the question that we haven't seen the answer to is
what it does is the car is fucking I mean, I also flash mine so I can turn stability control off, and it's neutral. I mean, it was basically uncatchable on a back road before because of just how easy the car was to manage at the limit. And now, it's fucking ridiculous.
So Jason, when does aero come into play at all? Like, I know the wheels on the stock e-Golf are for sure more aerodynamic, and they're not letting all the air into the brakes and stuff because they're not concerned about that. Do you think that has anything like?
All of it's a factor. I mean, weight is a small factor. The rolling resistance of the tire and the wind resistance of the tire, because it's wider, plus the aerodynamic whatever, I can't think of. See, this is why I couldn't think of Cammisa.
Aerodynamic qualities.
Yeah, all of those things will factor in. And what I like about the experiment that I'm about to do is that the 2 modified cars have exactly the same wheels on them. So I'll be able to isolate just the difference between PS All Season 3s and PS4Ss. And it may be that my mom's going to get a nice upgrade to PS4Ss. And I'll go to All Season 3 Pluses if I get half my range back, because 40% is a big hit. Big hit. But we'll see.
Okay.
When I had my e-Golf, I happened to have these lightweight old Mercedes wheels. So it was like the 14-inch. They look like steel wheels, but they were for the W123s. And they were made out of aluminum, just because I think it was an effort by Mercedes to try to lighten up the wheels as much as they could, because the cars were so slow. It was for the diesels. So anyways, they're kind of desirable wheels, but I had a couple sets of these aluminum ones. It's the same bolt pattern as the e-Golf, but they were 14s, and I just never went through the trouble. But I was thinking, like, man, if I could throw these things on, if 14s fit over the brakes, and who knows with all the regen stuff, I just have no idea. I didn't look behind. And then throw some Falcon Azenas, the RT615s or whatever, because I know those are in 14s. I don't know what Michelin does at that size.
Nothing.
That would be just a super light, tiny, compact wheel. You could even lower it. I have a theory too that if you do stiffer suspension, that's going to be better for mileage effectively, because you don't have to slow down as much in the corners, so you're less acceleration, deceleration. You can go. You're not buying it, Jason? I don't know about this.
Look, lowering the car will reduce its drag coefficient, and stiffer suspension should actually make the car more efficient, because you're losing momentum every time the shock absorber, and they do heat up after a while on a bumpy back road. So
and if you have to brake for the turn and then accelerate after, you're losing.
But that's partially offset by scrub on the tires. So your tires are at their most efficient going straight ahead, and the more lateral load, the closer they are to their limit, the more inefficient they are. But you're right in that the best thing to do would be to carry the same amount of speed, because you could regen going into the corners.
It gets complicated.
It's some of it, I bet you're right, but I bet it's probably not as much of a factor as some of the other ones. But
okay, I think we've covered this before, but we could do a quick roundtable. Roger Allen on YouTube says E46 M3 versus 996. They're about the same price these days, and both maintenance nightmares.
We got that right.
That's true.
Oh man.
Yeah, that was a big comparo when they came out too.
Yeah, that's funny. Here we are again.
Yeah. I'm so out on 996 these days with just, I mean, forget the IMS, just all the block chunking and cylinder lining issues that they have. Like, I just can't mess with that. It's too risky for me. E46, I know, have the rod bearing issues or whatever, but there's less there, and a lot of them were dealt with. And you take care of, and also, but a Vanos overhaul versus an
Yeah,
engine rebuild in a
I'm-
996.
I'm totally with you. Yeah, cooling
I think a
system.
996 is going to be a better driving car, but you know, it's a 911. You know, I mean, but it's too risky for me. I can't hang.
So let me throw this piece of info out. I think so. Motor for a 996. I think if you throw $20,000 at it, that you're good. Like this is basically roughly the
No,
Patrick.
you're
one.
not. You're not. He's blown. Well, let's just. I don't want to say how many he's blown, but let's just say
It's
it's
more
not
than
just
one.
one. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Here's my thing about, as much as the S54 has problems, all you
Yeah.
have to do is preventatively do rod bearings and preventatively do Vanos
and
rebuilds.
you put the later rod bearings in, and you're pretty good. Like I feel like the BMW is fixable. The 996 is not fixable, short of getting a GT3 motor and putting that in.
That'd fix it.
A real Metzger motor.
Which you
But the
basically can't
996
do.
is definitely a better driving car if you're looking at, which one you want to drive on a back road. Or
That's
something.
why the answer to that question is E36 M3 with some suspension stuff on it.
That's right.
It's kind of always the answer.
Drew Greenslate, what's up, Drew? Says, can we please take a moment to pour out some fuel for Jason's dearly departed miles per gallon meter in his E30 touring? Good night, sweet prince.
Oh yeah, you put an an oil temp sensor in there?
I freaking love that mod, by the way.
Thank
That's
you.
amazing.
So it took me 12 years to find an E30 M3 cluster. I have had eBay searches. No matter what I do when I try to buy, the time I try to buy it, it's gone. And so my buddy Bill Arnold, who owns a BMW shop, found one in his warehouse that he had been telling me for a decade that he had. And so so in the tachometers at 325i's and all the E30s and non-M3s, it's got a little vacuum operated like mile per gallon gauge. And I want oil temp. It's, this is my track car, and this is the most important thing for me to know. So I was kind of told it couldn't be done, so I had to do it. And I finally replaced that MPG meter with an oil temp gauge with the correct color gauge face and the correct color needle. And it was like 12 hours of hell to run the wiring so perfectly cleanly that even Bill couldn't see it when he looked under the hood initially. So oil temp for the win.
Well done. That's a great mod.
Really, really cool.
It was.
How are you gonna know what miles per gallon you're getting now? I mean, that was so
I'll
useful.
find out when I get gas.
That thing just like
It's so worthless. Yeah. It's
And they-
it's
Those
kind of
things are
nice.
so worthless.
It's up
It's
until
quirky.
like 2010 or something. I don't even know when they stopped doing that.
Back in the day, they were cool. And the other thing that's cool is you can make sure that your fuel cut is like your throttle position switch is working, because when you go off, it goes to absolute zero. And
I guess so.
There are little benefits to it, but far
Yeah.
outweighed by the fact that I could be cooking my oil every time on a back road and have no idea.
So I have one in my E46, and if I listen very carefully, I can actually hear some noise behind it. It's the weirdest freaking thing. If I am like cruising at a regular speed and I just dip in the throttle and it moves a little bit, it's like,
There's
it's
probably like
really,
a
it's
dead
crazy.
spider in there or something.
Maybe, yeah, maybe. I
Spider
have
web stuck in
animals,
it's a
yeah.
little tiny stepper motor. It's just a little motor that's moving the thing back and forth. But,
Jason, this is from Che Core on our Instagram. He says, has your outspoken yet wholly deserved style of review of any car gotten you in hot water with a manufacturer?
oh yeah.
How bad though?
I got a phone call when I was at Automobile saying that it was a good thing I wasn't in Europe, or I might have been paid a personal visit by someone high-ranking person at the Volkswagen Group.
Oh,
I
shit.
gave a review so harsh on a Bentley that I was banned from driving a Bentley for 5 years. Part of it is that the best thing you could ever do is give a PR person a heads up, like, hey, FYI, I'm going to slam the shit out of your car. And then they go and they warn everyone. But I was relatively green in the business, and I didn't know that. And this was a Bentley Conti, it was a Continental GT Speed. So it was like the last of the first generation Continentals. And they made a couple of fuck ups. First of all, the car's good. I mean, the car's, did exactly what it said it should. But they told us that they had already taken deposits, non-refundable deposits for all of the cars, and they were all sold. And then they showed the car's replacement, the second generation Continental, at Geneva before those first cars were even delivered. And I thought that was just really disingenuous. Like, don't show the car's replacement before you even deliver the ones that you have non-refundable deposits on. Number
Right.
one. Number two, then they told us, they're like, well, our customers, and this was in like 08, 09. This is like when the world is completely imploding. And they're like, our customers keep our cars an average of 6 months. And I was like, huh? And
What?
they're like, yeah, we
So
have to
they're
give them
Art
something.
Cervantes.
Oh, they're like, we have to give them something to upgrade to, or they're just going to defect to another brand. And I'm like, well, so make a fucking car that's compelling enough to keep their attention. But that's a different story. And so I'm like, so basically they're like, basically our customers are Los Angeles-based people who are like, I'm going to buy the next most expensive thing. So we start out with the cheap one and we just add all these expensive packages culminating in the speed. And so my review was half of the car and half, not half, 20% about the people who bought them, and how that they were just nouveau riche assholes trying to show off and out Jones each other. And I found that offensive. And I found it, equally offensive that Bentley was taking their money and not, while they've already shown the replacement. And I just found the whole thing disgusting. And then I made fun of it for being 5,600 pounds and having like manually adjustable seats, because, that's like, oh, this is what I used to do before I got rich. So I just slammed the car and they were not happy.
Were you bummed by that, or were you like proud? Like, what was your feeling? Was like, oh fuck, I fucked up.
I was upset that the PR person was so upset with me, and she was violent. I mean, she did not speak to me for years. I wasn't allowed on their stand at the car shows. She didn't speak to me. I mean, it was bad. And of course, I don't want to hurt anyone ever. Like, if I let me put it this way. The hardest thing for me to ever do is to give a car a bad review, because it's someone's baby. And somebody poured their blood, sweat, and tears into something. And here I come and I'm like, well, you fucked up. And it's, it seems like it would be fun on the outside to slam a car, but really it's terrible because of the people involved. And typically what happens is, in most cases, the people involved know that the car isn't what it should be. And sometimes they actually appreciate that really harsh feedback, because they can give it to their boss and be like, I told you. But typically they're working on either the wrong set of information or the wrong target, or what I think is the wrong target. Like, hey, like maybe a Bentley should be a compelling car. And they're thinking of, let's sell more of them, right? And so we have a difference in philosophy. But either way, it hurts people, and that sucks. That's it.
Why Mez threw down $5 on YouTube to ask this. It seems like a BMW show today, but he just wants to know everyone's thoughts on buying a Z4 M over an E46 M3 as a weekend car. Are there any downsides to the Z4 M other than practicality?
Rod bearings as well, right?
Yeah, which motor is that?
They came in. Wait, Z4 M.
It's the
Those-
50,
M was
it's
an
a 54.
N54?
S54.
S54.
So same engine as the M3.
Same as the M3.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But don't you think the M3 is a better car in almost
the
every way?
weekend?
Well, I mean, the Z4 M isn't a convertible or anything. I mean, what makes it better for the weekend?
It's a convertible. Z4M would be the
It can be a
second-gen
convertible.
convertible.
Oh, I
He said
guess
a
he's looking at
convertible.
convertible, or is he looking at the coupe? I default to coupe, I guess. When I
Yeah, it doesn't specify, but I mean, other than let's just talk about driving dynamics. I mean,
The M3 is more polished. The
It's also-
Z4 is fun though. I mean, I spun
Yeah.
a couple of them. They are a little bit of a handful at the limit.
like sloppy,
Yeah.
right? It's like they call it the German Viper and stuff. And,
Yeah, you sit on the back axle, and so by the time you figure out that you're about to go around, too late. And
Yeah.
they're kind of cool.
I like them. I like Z4
I
M.
think aesthetically, I would go for that over a standard
Same-
E46
Same here.
M3.
Me too.
But
and it's more
they're,
special. I mean,
yeah, it is.
E46
And I
is
think
a great car, but
that's another thing too in the long run. I mean, we talked about collectability a little bit, but I think it's definitely more special. It will hold its value better in the long run, unless the E46 M3 is one of the latest. It's a CSL or a
Perfect.
ZCP,
Yeah.
whatever.
and to quote you guys, they stink like a Louisiana person. What's it called? A sense of
sense
of
occasion.
occasion.
That's
it.
right.
Yeah,
That's it.
far more so in a Z4 than
I'm going E46 all the way on that one.
Yeah, well, you probably fit better in that too.
Well, I don't know about the value thing either. Z4s haven't been super valuable or known.
But
to be
Z4 M's
super
are
valuable.
pretty. They hold their value really well. I've
Yeah,
been
but
watching.
same with M3 E46s. I mean,
There's
they're
way more
going
to
for
choose
crazy
from.
money.
M3s have way more out there.
But I feel like they're more tattered for the most part. You're
M3?
gonna like to find a good one. You have
Yeah,
to
that's true.
search far and wide.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Where-
they're going up in value pretty
Yeah,
good,
pretty
right?
rapidly. I think it's a more classically styled car. Better.
Oh, for
I don't
sure.
know. I'm not into Bengal.
Yeah,
So,
right. If you're not wanting that
flame
flare.
surfacing is not my thing.
And
Yeah.
I'm so disappointed too, just because the Z3 coupe was such a rad design, and then the Z4 they just totally got tame with it. Like you don't get the bubble back or anything, which
Hey, you do.
no, you don't.
Are you talking about the fender flares
it's-
or the hips, or what do you
I
mean?
mean, a Z4M is flared.
No, I'm talking about the back, but I'm like memories going to.
Oh, because it's
see
not
what the
as much
flares
as
did.
like a shooting brake. It's
Yeah,
more
you
of a
don't.
coupe.
Yeah, you don't get the
Oh.
bubble back on the. Yeah,
You call it a
Uh,
bubble back.
yeah,
Bubble
bubble.
So I think
makes
that's
more
where we
sense for
lost. I think
flares.
that's where it was lost in translation.
I take
Yeah,
I
yeah.
take
It's
credit
a
for that.
classic bubble back. We all know
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
There's no bubble to that back, but I understand what you're saying.
And Bubbles got back, which is nice
I'm
too.
just trying to find some way to avoid saying shooting brake, which I just hate saying now with you guys.
know,
It's a whole weird
brakey-
topic.
Brakey shoots, whatever. I don't know.
When we started talking about shooting brake Audi Foxes last podcast, now I'm like a little sensitive to it. And
We're about to talk
it's a
about
weird thing.
Safari 911s and all of it. Okay.
Anyways, like it was such a unique, bold shape with the Z3 M coupe. Which I loved, especially the back. The front is a little weird, but and then totally lost on the Z4. So
They made it better. They did make it better looking, right?
it's probably better
classic,
looking
like
overall. but
proportionally and everything.
yeah, it's less polarizing, which I don't like.
Yeah,
I see.
less special, I guess.
You know, one thing. So I was looking up the Z4s. I was kind of interested. At one point in time, I was looking at like 128s and other random stuff. And so Z4 came to mind. I was like, oh yeah, well, what about that? Like, is that good in any way? And I think when they came out, they were comparing them to the Caymans, and
Yeah.
they just got.
they were.
Well, they can't even touch those, dude.
Everybody hated
So-
the Z4, but here's
Right.
the thing. It feels
Awful
like-
seats, awful seats. Z4 is the worst seats ever.
They were talking
Um,
about turn-in and all of this stuff, and it
yeah.
there were items where I was like, man, that's super easy to tune out. Like that could just be the factory alignment. And
Well,
Also
it's
dealing
like
with weight
any
distribution.
enthusiast, if you compare like an enthusiast alignment and maybe the right tire choice, like size-wise for both cars, maybe that would be a better comparison.
I don't know, but do the same thing to the Cayman, you'll have even sharper, right? It's like BMWs are known for their sharp steering and quick turn in, and Porsches kind of are.
Well, yeah, but
So-
as Cammisa just said, weight distribution, right? A mid-engine car is always going to have, you're talking about a lighter front end with usually a narrower cross section with tire that's going to give you lighter, more precise, sharper steering, versus a car with a gigantic 6 in the front, right? Like, and you're sitting way far back. Like, there's all these different factors. But I think, yeah, overall, I do remember that comparison. And it was usually Z4M Boxster S that I saw. And
Yeah.
the Boxster S always won everything, like
Sounds
braking, handling, performance, everything. I mean, you had as Lane mentioned earlier, the Z4M,
Well-
they kind of just said it was more of a kind of a hot rod, kind of a hoony type of car.
It's
if
it's
you
more
wanna
of like
dick around.
a weekend touring car as opposed to the Porsche where you can like pound out times, right? Or I mean, whatever.
Here's the thing. I now I'm old enough that I was there and I did those comparison tests, which is fucking horrifying. If you drove a BMW, if you drove the Z4 without ever driving a Porsche right back to back, you could say, well, it's a fine sports car experience. But then you get into the Porsches and they felt 2,000 pounds lighter. I mean, BMW has never made, let me think about this, a good sports car that compared favorably to a Porsche. They're based on, they're always heavier because they're based on much larger, bigger cars to begin with. And then they feel like everything's coated in rubber by comparison. And that was it. Like you got out of a Z4 and you got into a Porsche and you're sitting at the center of gravity of the car versus that weird seating position in the Z4. And the car's just, it was a lot lighter, but it felt 5 times lighter than it really was. And you get that Porsche magic that was sprinkled on it. And you're dealing with a car that's, effectively a $38,000 component set for a 3 Series. in a convertible versus a car that is a component set for a 911. I mean, one of them is a purpose-built sports car from top to bottom, and the other one is a vaguely sedan-built or sedan, based thing, and it's just never going to compete. So if you don't want the incredible sharpness, and if that's not what's important to you, you just want to have a weekend drop top or whether it's convertible or not, like sports car experience, they're fine. But they're just, when you get them on track, it's night and day. It's night.
Yeah. Although, and again, 986 Boxsters, 987 Boxsters
987 was
also
out.
have
First gen.
IMS issues. So it's another thing.
Yeah. But at that price point, you're looking at a second gen or even a 981.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I always remember Beamer Magazine had they had a cross. It was like a Comparo, and it was a cross with excellence. So they did like a cross comparison of each car. And Beamer Magazine drove the Z4 M, and then they were at a press it was like a press release for the car or whatever. And they're like, well, what do you guys think about the box? Like, are you guys scared of the Boxster? And they go, we know something about making sports cars. And they go, and then the Beamer, it was a Beamer Magazine article, and they go, well, apparently not as much as Porsche. That was kind of like the synopsis of what they said. It was like, I don't know. I always kind of feel that you drive an E46 M3 and it feels like a 6,000 pound car compared to a 996. So,
tell me one sports car that BMW's ever made that's great. E31 was a great Grand Tourer, the 8 Series.
M1.
M1 was built by Lamborghini.
But it has a BMW badge on it, so I don't know.
Yeah.
and it's still not even
BMW
that
motor.
competitive. I mean, it
No.
is as a full sports car, but as a full race car, but not as a street car. I mean,
It was quick enough. It did everything well enough, but
I would love
that's
to
really
drive one.
exception because all the engineering was done by Lamborghini anyway. But
Yeah.
BMW's in-house stuff, like Z1, cool car. I would totally rock
it's
one.
an E30.
Oh,
That's an E30.
yeah.
Z3, E36 front, E30 back.
Yeah.
Z4, Z8. I mean, they can't, current Z4,
No.
they just completely.
I know.
But don't you think they
don't
made the
understand
right move
how
because
to-
they couldn't compete, so they were like, all right, we're just going to make it into a touring car, and we're going to let the
They tell the sorry,
females design it by a committee. Basically, that's what they did.
that was the last one, which was a
Okay.
complete failure.
Yeah,
So the last one's a complete failure. The current one is a great looking car in its proportions. If you start looking closely at it, it's a little weird. But it's
The front end, dude. Are you talking? Oh man, I actually think the Supra is a better looking car, which is a crazy thing to say.
Art likes the Supra, Jason.
I'll fight anyone about that. The new
Oh, yeah,
Z4
let's do
is
it, dude.
so weird looking. The front end is so bizarre. I can't
The
handle it.
Supra has a penis. It literally has a penis.
Hey, what are you saying? Penises are ugly? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not getting involved in this
I'm not
conversation.
either.
However, I will say, you can definitely talk about the Z4's looks. The proportions are amazing. It screams sports car, and then you get in it, and it fucking sucks to drive.
Ah, it sucks.
And it's very capable. Like, it'll lay down great skid pad numbers, great acceleration numbers, great braking numbers. It will haul copious amounts of ass.
So
on
why
a
is it
back
so
road.
bad?
And because it gives you absolutely no pleasure at all.
Did they make a
None.
manual? Did they make a manual for it?
Nope.
Ay, ay, ay.
They just don't understand. BMW at this point in the history of that company, they just do not understand how to make something fun.
Yeah.
They don't care. They just want to make it, this is 2% more efficient than the previous version with more dynamism and whatever. Fuck, what? I just want to have
weird
fun.
too, because I didn't know Schwarzenegger was making cars. So
That's a different voice. That's Austrian, you asshole.
that sounds like a sex change woman or something.
Whoa.
Hi,
Yeah, exactly.
my name is Luenda Torx. I
Um,
perform weekly on RuPaul's Drag Race. Anyway, what?
Oh, and Brian has
Brian must have just walked in like, what the?
also has a baby with him.
Aw.
I didn't really get that.
Here's a doll.
Good luck with
Holding a
that.
doll.
Good luck with that. Jay
seen him on his house.
Palau 13 says, if you couldn't live in Northern California, any other U.S. location with quality and quantity of twisty roads that would be a top pick?
Wait, so Northern California, so Southern California is allowed.
I guess so. I'm going with
But then you have to
Utah.
live in Southern California.
Utah.
Yeah, it's rough. Yeah, you're down with
Utah,
weather, huh? You're down with some
Colorado.
I can do high desert. I can deal with high desert, and they have amazing roads and a lot of space and
snow.
beauty.
I was
What
gonna
about-
cheat and say if we can stay in California, I would do like Malibu or something so that I have access to the
Boo.
canyons and I want access to an international airport easily. And you're Santa Monica right there, you know,
Salt Lake
I know it's not
City.
Santa Monica proper.
What
But
about, what about like is there anything like Atlanta, like dirt roads out there?
Dirt roads?
There's some good roads north of Atlanta
I'm sure there's
Atlanta.
something.
and good
Dirt
tracks,
roads.
Atlanta Motorsports Park, but you get eaten by mosquitoes.
Dude,
and-
Colorado.
So hot.
roads up
Colorado, Colorado.
Colorado.
I would say Albuquerque, New Mexico, if I have to leave California.
Have you been there? Like
Yes.
for driving roads?
Well, yeah, all of the Four Corners area, you're right near there.
Yeah, but you have to have turbocharged
You're not
everything.
near the Four Corners in Albuquerque.
Just all of the north, immediately north, all
Santa
mountain
Fe,
roads,
Santa Fe.
all twisty mountain roads.
Santa Fe.
And you're
Too
closer to Phoenix if you need to
elevation.
get out of there.
How about Washington or Oregon? I mean, there's some good
Too
stuff
rainy.
up there.
Too rainy.
There's
And
terrible
the
cops.
are kind of gnarly.
The cops are gnarly, but I think you can get out of that. You can get outside of that, like where Chris Harrell lives and stuff.
Is that true? I thought it
Uh,
was just across the board. It's wet. It's really wet.
I don't want
Freezing
that.
fog, if you're into that sort of thing.
Jason, where are you at? Where are you moving to outside of California?
I'm not going to Santa Fe or Albuquerque because they're like 9,400 miles of elevation, and so all the cars have to be turbocharged, so everything sucks because it's slow. I'm not going to Seattle
9,400.
because they're all the further you go north in California on the West Coast. Yes, 9,400 miles. The further you go north, the nicer people get, and fuck that. I hate nice people.
I know.
At all. Like even San Francisco.
Dude,
ugh, they
Jason,
get
you need to
slow.
go back to Newark or like New York
Brooklyn. I'm from
or
Brooklyn.
Brooklyn. I know, but I'm saying some fucking just bunch of asshole people.
Go to fucking Jersey City. I'm gonna go over there. I'm gonna
Right.
kick some fucking ass. Everyone, listen. The one good thing about the lockdown is that all the scared Northern California people are off the road. You know, all the East Coast transplants are like, this is fucking great. We're gonna go for a drive. We're gonna do 120 miles an hour wherever we go. Everyone's maniacal, which is really
Well, you heard the stat about all the over 100-mile-an-hour tickets that the CHP has been giving.
oh yeah,
It's ridiculous.
yeah, it kind of sucks.
So you're saying Santa Fe is at 9,400 feet? Is what you're?
Miles? No, 9,400 miles of elevation. No, they're 5,000, right?
Something like that, yeah.
4, 5, 6,000, like up there enough that cars are slow.
Yeah, that's pretty high up.
In process of elimination, we're definitely not doing Florida.
Oh god.
No, Florida. Florida's probably the worst.
Pittsburgh isn't bad because you do get just enough snow in the mountains, like southeast of the city of Pittsburgh, that you can have some fun snow stuff.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty good point. Warren was bringing up weather as a bad thing, but yeah, like doing some snow donuts is not a bad thing.
Yep, and it's mountainous, unlike Detroit, which gets more snow but is hell on earth
Right.
Yeah.
geographically.
Yes. Yes.
People like Kentucky and Tennessee. The roads are unbelievable.
I've heard that too. And what about the like Blue Ridge Expressway or which one? What's that one?
Is that the West Virginia crazy?
I think it's like in the
interstate?
Carolinas, between kind of on the way to the Tail of the Dragon.
There's
zone.
all the roads around there. By the way, the Tail of the Dragon is like a 6 out of 10 compared to our normal roads. But the roads, some roads around there are even better. They're really good.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah. I'm just out at humidity and extreme weather. So humidity in the south, like Tennessee, Memphis, or whatever.
Art, they would take one look at your Mexican looking self and shoot you. So you can't even.
This is true. This is true. I don't even have a chance. Yeah. So
Nope.
why even consider it, right?
You need to have like an Aryan decoy with you at all times.
That's
to
right.
not get shot.
Aryan decoy. It's called Lane. Shave his head.
He'd have to grow a beard and look a little bit. Yeah, but you could work.
Yeah, I don't want to do that.
That is a tough question, though. I mean, we're obviously spoiled in Northern California for roads, for climate. There's no bugs, things like that. You know, I don't know if that's
it's the most expensive place in the United States to live, but it's worth it.
yeah, exactly.
If the things that are important to you are what this place offers, and that's why I
Yeah.
would rather be poor here than make a decent living somewhere else.
Rich in Tennessee.
I agree. And I think all of us here, including Brian, who stepped away here for a second, we have epic roads within 5 miles, 6 miles, right, from our house.
1 mile.
quarter mile.
Half a mile.
Yeah.
Richard Chen says, Jason, name one automotive component that you wish all drivers would learn more about and appreciate more besides tires.
Oh, Rich is such an asshole for asking me this question because it's a good question.
It is a good question.
And he knew you'd say tires, dude. We'd all say tires.
He's right, because
Totally.
that's it's one thing everyone cheaps out on. There's literally one thing touching the ground, like don't cheap out on the tire. Something that people would understand more about.
Is this enthusiast specific, you think, or all drivers?
I don't know. Because what I want to say is lane discipline, but that's not a part of a car. That's, like learn how to operate your machinery properly is the thing that I would say. But a component, clutch pedal. And not just because I think everyone should learn how to drive a manual, but I think most of the people that I know anyway who drive manuals don't really know what they're doing, and they don't. That came out wrong. They are not. When you watch them drive, you understand very quickly they don't really understand what's happening. They know how to go through the motions, and they can make a shift and they can make the car work. But there's a finesse and an art form that's lacking because they don't quite understand what's happening. And I would love to see more enthusiasts understand what's happening on the other side of that pedal and the other side of the gear lever, which would make them that much better of a driver. So,
okay, I think that's a good answer.
It's a really good question, though.
I was going to say brakes.
Why?
I don't know. People just kind of take them for granted.
They're the most overlooked. No, yeah, it's hard. That's what I was thinking, enthusiasts, right? Because if a lot of people will say like, oh man, I took this to the track and it was a disaster, and it's like brake fluid, brake pads, but it's a very specific scenario that's kind of required. Of course, a grabbier, more aggressive brake compound is going to give you more aggressive braking. That's maybe not a good thing for daily driving. So, I mean, in terms of the bite, right, and all that. I don't know. Yeah, I was trying to think about. Brian is feeding his child right now.
This is going to be great for the people who are watching.
This doesn't happen all the time, but it's helping right now. So I'm just hoping this works.
All right.
Watching this live and don't have a video feed are just going to hear in the background and not know what.
Well, luckily we're hearing it because it's through his headset, but he doesn't have the mic for the podcast. So anyhow, Dark Facts says, since I can't find the Cammisa review, Cammisa verdict. Sorry. Focus RS review anywhere online. Can you give me a quick review and opinion on this car now? I'm on the verge of buying a very low mileage unmodified RS. It will never be used to commute, just a night and weekend car.
And before you answer, Jason, why don't you just make a simple website that lists them all out in order and has a link over to the Instagram page?
Because that would be too easy and make far too much sense.
That makes sense.
I should do that. I wish I had time to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you talked about doing that on a past podcast, actually.
Right, and I have personal copies of all the old Motor Trend videos that have now been taken down off of YouTube. And what I should do is go and locate them and find, because some of them actually live on motortrend.com. Like if you just go to the review of that car, they're sort of embedded. But I really should have an aggregate website. Okay, first things first. If you're looking at a Ford Focus RS as an occasional use car, I think you can do better than that.
Wrong car, dude.
It's the wrong car. I mean, as a daily driver that's fun as hell, absolutely. It's practical. It's got a decent sized back seat, a good sized trunk. It's comfortable. It's got great seats.
Wait, comfortable? Isn't the ride like renowned?
Okay, I was just going to say, you stopped me in time. If you have a large chest, you're going to hit yourself in the face with your tits because it rides like they're sand in the dampers. And then if you put it in sport mode, you'll smash your head on the ceiling as you're being knocked unconscious by your big tits. I mean, it's just, the ride is completely and totally unacceptable, but the car is fun. It's genuinely one of the few modern cars that has a personality and is fun and just is a good time. But I would think of a less practical form factor. If you don't need the car for practical things, a less practical form factor just kind of says like, go get an Elise. That's, probably about the same price, or go get something that's genuinely in a different league of compromised fun. Like it's not going to be great for going grocery shopping, but it's going to be unbelievable to drive.
Exactly. And maybe
I agree. You don't need like get the most compromised fun car you can, right?
Right.
Like why are you getting a car that like is compromising the fun stuff for practicality if you're only using it for those occasions?
Here's the thing, the amount of money that you'll still spend in depreciation alone on a Focus RS would, if you look at the true cost of ownership for the next 3 years, you are better off. It will be cheaper to own a Ferrari 308 than it would to, that just has a belt service, than it would to drive a Focus RS. And there's nothing wrong with the RS. The RS makes a great driver's car. But I zoom out and say the amount of money you're going to spend on that, just go buy something epic for that kind of money.
Yeah,
Agree.
Kurt K. Photo says, in the age of social media, are high-end TV productions still viable? I love Top Gear and the Grand Tour, the Assimi vids, and Motor Trend TV stuff, but social media platforms have put beginner and semi-pro people out there providing free stuff that require no subscriptions and have decent enough quality to be interesting. Seems like a tough market. Jason, thoughts?
I wonder the same thing. I don't know. I think that Netflix has shown that there is definitely a space for incredibly high production value stuff. And this is outside of the car space. Netflix and Amazon, they're spending tons of money making amazing content, and people love it. And people see the difference between crap reality television and Game of Thrones, or any of the Netflix original stuff that's really great. I think right now there is nothing compelling in the automotive space that's high quality. And so people are saying, well, no one wants anything that's high quality because if we make it, they don't watch it. But people don't watch it because it sucks. And like Netflix's car stuff just sucked. It wasn't particularly high quality, but it was better than anything. On the flip side of it, you have to look at raw numbers. I mean, I did what I would consider as close as you can get to Top Gear quality on YouTube video on the GT500 for ACME. So here I had a Mustang GT500. I brought an in 812 Superfast and drag raced against that, plus a Hellcat. Plus we raced it against a GT3 RS with Randy Popes. I mean, we pulled out all the stops and did an incredible, what I think turned out to be an incredible production. And Doug fucking DeMuro stands in front of the air and gives it a fucking gag score. And nothing against Doug, but fuck you. He got more views than I did.
And nothing against him.
No, but I hear you. It's frustrating.
No, it's so frustrating, dude. But it is the way, it's just what's happening, right? And it sucks, dude, because that video was so fun. It was awesome. And we got to see Derek with the shirt off, waving his
that was the worst
flag.
part.
Derek.
But and you're right. Like Doug will talk about the quirks and features for 20 minutes with no production value at all.
Why is that? Is it just like easier to watch or something?
Yeah, I don't find amusement, like I don't find it fun to watch, but I know obviously millions of people do.
Here we go. I think we've stumbled on the real problem. When you use view counts as the only metric of success, you've already failed to judge things properly. Yeah, sure, Doug got 500 bazillion views, but most of them were with somebody on somebody's TV or phone while they're playing a video game, while they're half paying attention, and they're not really engaged with that product in the same way that someone would a Top Gear segment, and a 9-minute Top Gear, a 7-minute Top Gear segment on the car. But I think right now, social media is set up just to reward view count and not interaction and not what people really genuinely like. I mean, if I look at the number of minutes, so on the YouTube side, I can look at actual engagement. I can look at the number of people who've liked the video, who've commented on the video, but more important to me is how many minutes the average person sat through that video. And I think our video wound up being, it was way longer than it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be like 11 minutes and it wound up being 20. And I think the average person sat through 13 and a half minutes of that. And so to have the average viewer at 13 minutes of a 20-minute product is unheard of on YouTube. And that's because we kept having different chapters, right? So we had the drag race, and we had Derek rip his shirt off, And then, it's a sort of constant change of pace and constant visual changes. That's a very different kind of audience than someone who's playing video games and playing Doug in the background. And I mean this when I say nothing against Doug. He's figured out something that really makes sense. And if I don't ever get a chance to see a McLaren F1 in real life, I want to take a half an hour to look at the quirks and features and what the key looks like and all these little things you never know, which is what I'm now trying to do in Spotlight, the new series that I'm doing. But without having one locked off camera sitting there with me talking in a stream of consciousness bullshit like I'm doing right now for a half an hour. Like that's just not what I want. And I know it's not what you guys watch either, but it's clearly people are watching this stuff.
And I don't even know. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it's treated like a podcast a lot of the time, right? As you mentioned, like where it's more background noise, like the person, because it's a conversation. It's not, it's monologue, but you're getting information that you don't necessarily need to be watching all the time. Like some of the features, of course, like if it's switch gear or whatever, but then there are large portions of that where he's talking about the background behind the selection of this button and why they put it this way and all that. You don't necessarily need to be seeing it. Obviously helps too. So I think a lot of that isn't necessarily as engaged as you're describing, right? Versus someone who's actually consuming it and viewing it, where it's just playing as something in the background. Whereas what you made is something that's beautiful, that is engaging and is to be admired for that, versus just something that is just conversation or monologue in the background, I guess.
Thank you. I mean, that's my hope.
And by the way, I have to say that your video kept me engaged because I was waiting for more fucking super fast content that never came. And I'm like, come on, drive more super fast. I want to know more about it. You did the drag race, but what about it? Like, it seems like such a badass car. And, anyways. Yeah.
So trust me, if we had more time and resources, we would have made an Icons episode on the Superfast while we were there. I mean, that thing is unbelievable. But, I put the Superfast in there just to point out just how ridiculously fast the GT500 is. And actually, we thought the GT500 was going to be way closer to the A12 Superfast in acceleration than it was. But, it didn't quite work out the way I wanted to. But again, this should be an engaging, like I want people, when they're watching the stuff that I do, that Icons product and the Spotlight product, to be front of brain. Like I want them to be 100% paying attention to it rather than something that happens in the background. There's a time and place for that. But I think Doug's audience is probably averages like 14 years old, and they're just a younger, kind of less focused audience.
Yeah, it's a different kind of enthusiast. It's like
exactly.
a little bit less, less of enthusiast, I would say.
Vroomhilda's back with $13.99.
Oh wow! Thank you, Vroomhilda.
Thanks, Vroomhilda. He says, how much more of the 0 to 60 codpiece wars do you think there is left before analog engagement becomes the focus? He says also, by the way, I got passed by the 191 mile an hour Benz that got pinched in Burlington the other day. Nuts. I don't know.
191.
Gnarly, dude.
We gotta look this up.
What was it?
In Vermont.
Damn.
Holy
cooking.
shit.
Yeah, I guess there's no one around there.
Cooking.
Wow, I guess except the cop. All right, while Art looks that up, 0 to 60 codpiece BS. I think we're there. I mean,
yeah.
Certainly, I think everyone in this room, in this Zoom room, is there. I don't give.
Don't you think Tesla kind of like broke that?
Just wait till that Roadster comes out, if that ever happens. If Elon doesn't, do a fatal dose of LSD by mistake one day. if that thing happens, it's over for everything else. Or if even the Pininfarina Battista happens, that's the Rimac 2.
Rimac, yeah. But I already think it is. It's like all of a sudden, it's like it doesn't matter anymore. When the Tesla started doing it in the twos and stuff, you're kind of like, okay, now let's find another metric.
Here's the other thing, and Brian will back me up on this. E-Golf does 0 to 60, and you had the 85.
Small,
the early 115 horsepower engine that did 0 to 60 in 9.4 seconds. Was that not your fastest car in traffic?
Oh yeah,
by
far and away. Yeah,
I would get it out of my 115 horsepower 9.4 second E-Golf and into my 4.2 second supercharged Lotus Elise and be like, oh, this thing's fucking slow.
Yeah, it's just so immediate. Yeah, it's a completely different punch to have under your foot at any time. Yeah,
Yeah.
getting through traffic. Yeah, and part of it too was like the small size, but here in your case, you had the Elise, so it's comparable. But you would have to wait for the Elise, no matter
Well, I'm
how
not
fast
driving
it is.
around in first gear at 6,400 RPM at my
Right.
horsepower peak.
Right.
And in my e-Golf, I am driving around in first gear at my horsepower peak, ready to deploy it at
It's
all
like a
times.
Frogger car. We're just ready to jump, whatever.
So
yeah.
I found this car.
But I think this. I think until we have car magazines that do a review and have some rating for measuring engagement in some way, then we're still under the 0 to 60 times, right?
So Chris Harris actually just did a thing on this recently. I don't know where the hell I saw him, but he was saying that, we at the car magazines have fucked up and created this world where we're just pushing metrics, right? This one does 0 to 60, 0.x seconds faster than before, and then. And we've created this monster. And somebody actually asked me on Instagram if I've ever met Chris. Yes. And actually, great guy, real genuine car guy, owns his own cars. He drives his own cars. And though I disagree with him about some of them, because I think he looks at things slightly differently than I do. Certainly in cases like NSX where he loved drifting it, so he thought it was a great car. Where I drove it around, I'm like, this sucks to drive every day. So I think it's a terrible car. It doesn't matter if it drifts well. So we've definitely disagreed on stuff. But when you have, and I just got myself in a little bit of trouble a couple weeks ago from something I said on the Carmagin show on my podcast, and wound up being the #1 thread in our cars on Reddit, which was that the reason car magazines so often get it wrong is that car journalists mostly don't own cars. And
that
so
hurts.
They're just driving loaners. Yeah,
they're driving loaner cars, and they have a, every day or every 3 days or whatever, they get a different press car, and then they're flying around the world driving these great, incredible achievements of automotive engineering. But that doesn't mean they're necessarily good to live with and fun to interact with. And when I look at the crop of current sports sedans, quote unquote, what's good? Like, give me an Alfa Giulia. Surprisingly, give me a Volvo S60 T8 hybrid. There are very few sports sedans left that understand that involvement was actually far more important than 0 to 60 numbers.
I think it is
100% the fault of the media.
It has to come down to, playing devil's advocate here, that it's a number. You have something to compare to, rather than
how do you see
the pants by one guy who's grown up on tight, narrow roads and another guy who's back roads of Texas.
That's the hard part of doing this. Yeah,
they've also been doing it since the beginning
wishy-washy.
of time, since the beginning of car magazines, which is, I remember
horsepower.
I remember 50s, 60s road and tracks that my dad had. I'd look through and I'd look at the 0 to 60 times and memorize which was the fastest one. And
well, but it used to be. I think part of the heart of this is that it used to be relevant. Those were days when
you were drag racing.
Not everybody, well, that too, but not everybody was it wasn't so easy to get past this minimum threshold of a fun power to weight ratio.
You're right.
Now, I would almost argue that it wasn't even Tesla, maybe that was the nail in the coffin, but it's when the minivans started being faster than all the enthusiast cars. Like, it's like, what does my 1970 Chevelle Malibu with a 383 have anything to do with a minivan that can beat me on a 0 to 60 run? And it's like, once you get to that point, it's like, well, what does that 0 to 60 time even mean anyways? And but then the flip side, like you're bringing up, Warren, like how do you do the comparison? How do you get that number? And it gets to this, like, it's like UC Santa Cruz, when they started, they did no grades. It was all like subjective reviews or whatever.
Well, that was until 10 years ago.
Right. They did it a surprisingly long time, actually, but it's so hippie, right? Like, how do you get into these personal feelings of like there's no like objective way, or it's very hard to find an objective way to like review this driver engagement bit, right?
Well, like 50 to 70 is a good, or is it 50 to 70? That's a better one probably. But
5 to
the
60
hard
is
thing,
the best one.
the hard thing with 0 to 60 is I know Motor Trend or Car and Driver, they include like a whatever rollout. So they knock that out. So they always have a quicker 0 to 60 time than say Road and Track. So there's all these different ways of like
rollout too.
Okay, so which one doesn't do roll? I mean, there is different
Edmunds.
styles of
Edmunds
recording
is-
0 to 60, and it's very inconsistent. So you're like, okay, this company states this states this. Porsche always underestimates their cars, and then Ford might say theirs is faster than it actually is, and it turns into this whole like war of lies.
I'll correct you there. Sorry for a second, Lane. Everyone, all of the, so there were the big 4 car magazines: Car and Driver, Motor Trend, Automobile, and Road and Track. And all 4 of them test the same way and pull out, roll out.
Okay, well, historically, Car and Driver would always be faster 0 to 60 than every other magazine. When you look historically at the numbers,
Motor Trend's usually faster than Car and Driver.
Okay, then Motor Trend was faster than all the other magazines. Like there was one that was always a 0.2 faster, no matter what the car was.
It was down to the driver. So it's down to 2 things. And everyone does exactly the same thing. And so, and I've unfortunately worked for all of them now. Everyone does the same thing. They crunch the numbers in the same way. They remove the first foot of forward progress, which is rollout. For years, Car and Driver, up until I think the early 80s, just removed 0.3 of a second off of every car. And then they went to an actual 1 foot. But then they do weather correction, and they do Motor Trend. So there's the Hearst magazines, which is Road and Track and Car and Driver. I should say the other way around. Car and Driver is the dominant magazine. Road and Track is the sort of smaller one. And then there's the Enthusiast Network magazines, which was Motor Trend and then Automobile. Automobile is now half defunct. But the Hearst magazines do weather correction slightly differently than the Motor Trend magazines did. You add to that Motor Trend had a mentality that if you destroy the car and you get a better time, it's worth it. So there's this one guy who tested for Motor Trend. I'm not going to drop any name. The motherfucker shifted so fast. But I watched, you literally, it sounded like a dual clutch. So you get this launch and take off, and you're like, what was that? Is it an automatic? There was no interruption in power.
He wouldn't lift the gas. He just power shift.
He would lift, but it would literally, and then you listen to the Car and Driver guys, or when I tested for any of them, there's just, I can't shift that far. But this one particular person bent 2 second gear shift forks in 2 consecutive Lotus Evoras that we tested. And my boss was ripshit. Lotus was fucking violent. Everyone cared. And the Motor Trend boss was like, good, you got an extra 1/10 of a second out of the car. So there's all of these things going. Here's the reality of it. You as an owner of a car are fucking never going to do what we do to these cars in testing. Never. You're never going to do a 9,000 RPM sidestep launch in an RX-8. You're just not. And then slam first to second as fast as you possibly can to get an extra 1/10 to beat the other guys. It's not going to happen. So Car and Driver and Road and Track now publish 5 to 60 rolling start. And this is in gear, in this case of a stick shift car, gear is engaged in first. You're moving at 5 miles an hour. There's a pressure bulb on the gas pedal. So the second you hit the gas, the timer starts. So you're taking into consideration turbo lag, engine response time, all of the above, and you're taking out the launch. And
that's cool.
Sure, PDK like Porsches are dead nuts consistent. They will do launch control day in, day out. You get something like a GTR, does it once or twice, transmission explodes, or your warranty's voided, or all of the above. It's just not, it's stupid. You're never going to do this. Like, I guarantee you, half the guys who drive cars that do 0 to 60s in 4s and 5s with a manual, come over to my house, I'll put a V-Box in it, and let's go watch what you do. You're going to be 2 seconds off. It's just not relevant to the real world. And it's the job of the journalist reviewing the car to say 0 to 60 and top speed and horsepower and all of these different things are just a number. And they're there to allow to me to put in perspective. Do you as a driver know the difference between a 3,800-pound car and a 3,100-pound car? No, because there are so many other variables at play that the 3,800-pound car could feel half the weight of the 3,100.
Well, I think we're a different us personally are a different category. But if you're talking about general people,
but you go drive an Alfa Stelvio, car feels like it weighs 2,600 pounds. It's just comes down to the way the steering feels, all these other things. So it's our job as journalists to say, look, this car does 183 miles an hour, but that's just a data point, and it's boring, so it doesn't matter. And to your point, Brian, back in the day, 40, 50 years ago, if a car had a native top speed of 120 miles an hour versus another car that had a top speed of 170 miles an hour, you could use that data point to understand that the car that at 120 is going to feel really busy at 100. It's going to be 100 versus 120, 5/6 of the way to red line. So it's going to be at 5,000 RPM for sure. It's, you know, it's going to be pushing what it can do. Whereas the car that does a $180 is going to be bored. Now everything is electronically limited anyway. So everything can be boring at 120 because they're all, their natural top speed would be 180, 160 or 200 or 240 or whatever it is. So it's the job of the journalist, and I think most of us fail continually at that, at saying, here's this amazing number, but it's actually not relevant. Here's what you need to know. And what you need to know is what the car makes you feel like, because speed fades.
But then it's, yeah, and that's so hard to like compare side by side in a chart at the end of a magazine, right? Because it's like now you're inserting the variable of all the different automotive journalists, which, you know, is actually part of the, you know, as a side note, part of the fun thing, growing up reading car magazines, you start to pick out your favorite journalists and people who you trust more than others. So you're like, you know, I'll listen to this guy. But yeah, very hard to compare in a spreadsheet sort of way, right?
Yeah.
And then, but maybe, you know, if we think about it a little bit, maybe you can come up with some metrics that help describe it. It would be on us probably to define, like, when I say I want driver engagement, like, what does that mean? And, you know, you start to talk about things like, I mean, like steering is very important to us. So how do you measure, like in the real world, what that actually means to us is when you turn the wheel, how long before you turn the wheel and the weight transfers and you feel planted in the corner? A weird thing to measure, but maybe you can, right?
You can't. And so the trap there is what you're describing is breaking down something like steering feel into a bunch of different metrics.
It's like 1,000 things, dude.
And well, that's exactly what car companies do. And if you want a perfect example of a company that's done exactly that, it's BMW.
Porsche.
No.
Okay.
No. Porsche goes by their, I mean, okay, GT cars have amazing steering, but that's because Andy Preuninger goes in and says this car feels like shit, fix it. BMW whittled down quote unquote steering feel to a number of metrics. It's time of response, it's gear ratio, it's rate, it's effort build, it's what happens in whatever. And they have steering systems that are quantifiably better than anything they've ever been. And all I say to their engineers, and I've worked closely with some BMW steering engineers, is you can tell me all you want that this F30 pile of shit has good steering. Get into my E30 and come back and talk to me. And if they go and drive one of the cars, they're like, oh yeah, because you can't quantify things like, you can, but there would be so many variables that you'd be testing for that you might as well just say, this guy's an expert on steering, have him tune it. And that's what McLaren does and Aston Martin does and Porsche does.
Magazines have historically had I don't know which magazine always did it, but it would be like the 1 through 10 when they do a comparison test, right? So it's like steering feel. They'll have a 1 through 10, 5 guys rank it, and then they come out, you know, with a number, right? So car and driver would be like, oh, it gets a 7, it gets an 8, you know, whatever. I mean, I think that's probably as close as you can get to coming out with a winner or a car that feels the best in those categories, you know, because you do have the variable of people's like opinions, but the more people you have driving it and saying, yeah, this one has the best steering feel out of these, it's not necessarily like quantifying it into like turn in and how sharp and all that. It's just how it feels, right?
Evaluating as a whole.
It's evaluating as a whole system where, like you said with the new BMW, it's like I have never heard anyone say that thing steers well, but you're saying
driver
like,
did.
Oh, really? Okay, but you're saying their metrics tell you that it's the best steering ever,
right? And this was the danger. So Don Sherman, who was tech director at Automobile while I was there, and the guy is really, really smart, hates me, has always hated me. It's fucking mutual. However, he made one big fuck up when he was on his last stint at Car and Driver before he was forced into retirement for I think his 16th sexual assault claim. I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. Totally. He was. I'm not going to get into it. But Don wrote an article where he tested E90 hydraulic versus F30 electric steering, and he did Brian exactly what you're looking at. He did a bunch of charts of ratio build and yaw per degree of steering travel, all this other stuff. and concluded that electric power steering was vastly superior than hydraulic. And for a while there, Car and Driver did have a policy where they would pick the car that was the sort of the one that did best in all these categories that they had. And I remember one previous high-ranking person at Car and Driver telling me he was leaving after a huge fight over having to pick, I think it was a Porsche over a Ferrari, even though the Ferrari was vastly better of a car because their numbers told them to do so. In the years since then, they've gotten rid of that. And so that you'll see often that they'll say like, we know we're going to hear it from you because we're giving first place to the car that was the slowest, got the worst fuel economy, was the most expensive, but it's our favorite. So, and it's really important for car magazines, any editorial, to have the right to say that, like, look, sometimes you just get what you pay for. So it's more expensive, and it's not about what 0 to 60 is. It's not about what the EPA number is. We're considering this a sports car, so we're going to judge it based on its ability to put a smile on your face. And for that reason, the car that looks the worst on the paper is by far the best. And I think every one of the magazines now does that. Even Motor Trend.
That was always the biggest failure of those old magazines was, Car and Driver. You said, like, when they do that test, it would be a sports car test purely about driving, and then they would have luggage space.
Right.
And one car would get a 10 and the other cars would get a 2, and those cars would lose the competition,
over
would
something
lose the
that was
comparison because of luggage space. And you're like, dude, that car still has enough for bags for a weekend or whatever. And it was like, dude, you get lost over something that is not relevant at all for what you're buying this car for.
But then you hope that the people actually in the market for said car look at that and go, okay, well.
But most people look and they go first place, second place, they go look up first place.
And it was the same reason, it was just as infuriating when they would dock points for understeer on minivans. What? No one gives a shit about neutral handling on your minivan or fuel economy of your Lamborghini. Like, get the fuck out of it.
Yeah, exactly. Fuel economy is another one.
That's the problem. You can't. These cars are so complex, and all of the decisions that go into deciding, optimizing this versus that and trading off here versus there are so complicated. You can't boil it down to any of the even 25 or 50 or 200 or 500 categories, or you wind up with something like a fucking the current 3 Series, which appeals to no one. Best 3 Series ever.
Could you not curse, please? We've had babies on this show. I mean, come on.
I feel like the Euro magazines like Car and Top Gear and those always did a pretty good job, because it wouldn't be as much about the numbers. It would be just an article written on how they feel the car drove, and boiling it down to that rather than like the stats or putting a number on everything.
They're not immune to it, but I think they did a better job. And here's the other thing: go look at the people who write for the British car magazines and what they do in their spare time.
Drive.
It's disgusting. Pigs.
They own cars. They drive cars.
And they eat
haggis,
tomatoes,
haggis,
and beans for breakfast. What the fuck is wrong with people?
Ignore what happens in the kitchen, and just look in the garage.
How much more do you guys have in the tank, huh? We've been at it.
I do this all day, every day. This is me just being me.
I'm good. I'm good till 6. So I'm down.
Okay. A couple more questions then. Vroomhilda is throwing down another $13.99.
Is it Hilda? It's Hilde.
That's
Vroomhilde.
That's how you pronounce it.
Oh wait, can I before we answer Vroomhilda's question? I did find that one Mercedes that was going 191 or whatever, or got busted going that. So Canadian police bust teen speeding at 191 miles per hour in dad's AMG C63.
He was either at the limiter or the limiter was removed.
I didn't know they went 191.
Yeah, they have a 155 limiter. Yeah, so
unless you get the driver's pack, in which case they're 186 or 182. Even.
That's insane.
Jesus Christ, that kid's lucky he's not dead.
Yeah, exactly.
Where it was.
That's
crazy.
Speed wobble.
Now we sound like old men. Yeah,
I know. Vroomhilda
Apparently it was 2. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead. Sorry, one.
First post-lockdown trip for a drive for you guys. So, Jason, have you been driving much, like, outside of the county?
No, I haven't gone anywhere.
Yeah. I don't know. It's weird because our last drive was the rally. I mean, at least for me.
Yeah, that was crazy. because we were all on that rally and we left on Thursday. Like Thursday night, we all gathered for dinner. Everything was great. And I was like, well, maybe
At a
we should,
restaurant?
like stay away from each other at a restaurant. Ha ha ha. And we came back on Sunday. I'm sure your listeners have heard this many times, so I'll make it quick. But we came back on Sunday to a different world.
Locked
Yes.
down
That
basically
was-
everywhere. Yeah.
By Monday, it was like, fuck.
That was nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, we were like, my whole circle of friends, we were horrified.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck how did this just happen? What did, like the world fell apart while we were out having fun. And then a couple days later, one of the guys in my group of friends got really sick. And we thought, uh-oh, now we've all gotten the coronavirus.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we went on the drive.
Yeah.
The last hurrah.
I'm glad it worked out, because if it was the following weekend, we would not have gotten to do it, and we would be sitting here with no rally to even talk about. So I do.
So where do we go next? Yeah.
I
Where's
hope
our
that we
first?
can do a goddamn rally in the fall. I don't know.
That won't be
Yeah.
our first, but I mean,
No, it won't
it could
be our
be
first.
very, very close after things open up.
Yeah,
So I was
time
trying
it
to, I
does.
was kind of dissecting the question, and like, it's not just the drive; it's actually going on a trip specifically for a drive, right? So
Oh,
that's
okay.
what it sounds like. So, to me, the only time that I really take the time to do that, unfortunately, these days, is when we have our rallies, because we've historically been very busy. But
Yeah.
unless we drive down to do a meeting in LA or something, instead of flying out, which would probably be a better thing to do, early on, that would probably be it. Hopefully we can do that in late summer, early fall. Take
Yeah.
the long route down, take some kind of crossover in the valley there, do some of the old Coastal Range Rally roads.
And
on the
I
way
mean,
into LA.
for our morning motors, there's sometimes some opportunities to do a little pre-drive or when you're swapping cars and everything, and that could be near.
That's definitely one, yeah.
Yeah, the thing that sucks is a lot of times these drives end up going to a place to have lunch, right? Or something like that. It's always like having a destination in mind to kind of hang out for a little bit, talk about your drive, recoup, and then go home. But I think once that happens, like I still want to do like a lunch trip to Parkfield. I've been wanting to do that for a while, so I think that'll be the first one.
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think I think we can all agree our first big drive is going to be the next rally. Let's start planning it, guys.
It's
But
planned. It's planned.
The reality is, most of what we did on that rally was pretty safe. I mean, we were mostly just one or two people in a car, one or two people in a hotel room.
I know.
It was
But
the dinners.
imagine doing that today, right now.
No problem. I would do it.
100 people in a restaurant.
No. So that's the thing is the dinners, like
I know.
it has to be like we meet outside for a picnic somewhere where we're all
I know,
far
I know.
away from each other.
But
on
it
a
felt
windy knoll.
kind of weird at the time. But then if you think about it in current world,
No
to
way.
go into a restaurant with 100
Yeah.
people and in tight confines, it wasn't like
Yeah.
I'll be
spaceship.
honest with that last dinner, a bunch of us, I was part of a bunch of people. I'm like, I don't think I'm comfortable in here. I think it's time to leave.
You were gonna
It's
die.
just this like 100 people packed into this room with like a 6'11" ceiling and like drop ceiling, and there was no ventilation, and we were just
And the-
packed on
The
top of each
walls
other.
kept closing in
They
too. That
did.
was kind of a
They
weird
definitely
feature.
did.
But
Yeah,
you
we
the
were
survived.
pressure's on.
left.
Yeah.
You survived.
so-
You can laugh about it now.
Dude, I think there's a way to do it though. If worst case scenario, if we're banned from large gatherings for another year, drive through food trucks.
Oh,
You
drive
past
period.
it, and then yeah, but I'm just thinking as a dinner like destination, right? So we have a large lot, food trucks. You pull up to the food truck, kind of like the old hop or whatever they used to do in the 50s, and they
Yeah.
go to your window, they drop stuff in, and there's it's one way to do it. Obviously, I mean,
Everyone
you're
eating
still
in their car.
Roller skates
Jason
have to be
doesn't.
involved.
Jason doesn't do that.
Yeah,
well,
I'm good.
Jason would cover the interior with plastic and stuff.
I'll bring one of the cars that I eat in.
I'll
I
get
think
you
I'm
one of
good
those
getting
van
out of my
bibs.
car.
There's a way to do it. I mean, the reality is we have to be. I have to be super nerdy again, but you'll be very surprised. I'm listening to a bunch of podcasts and science stuff out of Europe, out of Germany, specifically about the research, and it's really looking like being outside is safe. It's certainly if there's air moving and you're outside and there's UV light and all this other stuff. And so it may be just something that we have to say, we're not going to all be in one building together. And we don't have to eat in our cars, but we do have to eat outside in a well-lit, well-ventilated place.
Yeah.
And so maybe the dinners, because part of the rally is great, the driving is amazing, but the camaraderie that happens at night at dinner when we all start hanging out with each other is a really important part of it.
Yeah.
And maybe that just moves to lunch, and lunch becomes a longer event where we're outside and we can all hang out, and it's relatively safe. There is no 100% safe. But
How about a nighttime parking lot party with tons of alcohol? So the alcohol kills said.
So you need a sprit. You need a
things.
like mist.
Yeah,
like
mist
alcohol
of vodka or something.
Yeah, yeah.
And then we could bring we could provide
Super soakers.
Clorox syringes where we could just be like, you know,
Yeah.
Oh,
shooting
just-
up to
Well,
clean
yeah,
our blood.
that, or you can do the. I think Trump said you can just shoot UV light into your body, right, and then
Mhm.
you can
Yeah,
kill the the virus that way.
no.
But I mean, I like where you're going, Lane. You do the alcohol, but then you do tacos too, and it's all just parking lot based. Oh,
yeah,
it's-
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then those will make you like throw up and shit and stuff. So you do food truck
Evacuate
tacos
all
and- yeah, yeah.
systems. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
you
it's all
could
good.
do a 6-foot distance line to a food truck, and then
Yeah.
everyone goes to their respective area.
Right, and especially if you like sub quarantine, you pick a group of friends that that you understand that they've also been sheltering in place and they've been doing a good job at limiting their contacts, and you say, okay, well, these are the guys we're going to share a hotel room.
Yeah, you only
guys
make
are-
out with them, no one else.
Yeah.
It's just like
right.
high school.
Like yeah, exactly.
Sub
I feel
quarantining.
like my experience in the rallies has been somehow I've missed
It's a little
some.
different, or what?
You should see the pre-runs. The pre-runs get a little cozy.
They do get cozy. Broomhildis went on to say, thanks all for keeping the content up. And Jason, pretty sure my wife had a crush on you when she
Ooh.
first showed me head to head.
Had emphasis on my wife had a crush on you. Yeah.
So she likes
Oh,
Adam
you-
Sandler, huh?
Yeah, she thought it was
Nice
she
one.
thought it was Adam Sandler. A question from your Instagram, Jason, is from J.R. Schultz, and he says, "Is there such a thing as a front-wheel drive sports sedan? I'm considering
Yeah.
a used
Yeah.
2016. I'm considering a used 2016 Buick Regal GS.
That's not it.
Ford Taurus SHO.
That is not a
GLI,
sports
dude.
sedan.
Alfa
Yeah.
Romeo
Show is
164.
a front-wheel drive muscle car.
Alfa Romeo 164.
Sure.
Yeah, Jetta GLI is a good one. I think it all depends on what your definition of
Civic?
sports sedan is.
SI?
right?
850R.
Not SI. But if the whole idea is a sedan that's enjoyable to drive, there have been plenty of them. Alpha 164, Jetta GLI of any generation.
Civic Type R, 4-door.
Civic Type R, which I have not yet driven.
They're really, really good.
It's not a sedan, but yeah.
It's not?
No.
Civic
Right,
SI,
it's a hatchback, right?
Oh, shit. It's a hatchback.
but you can get an SI as a sedan, and
Yeah,
that's
not a Type R though.
Yeah.
there could be Ford Contour SVT.
Mm,
There's a Radwood era appropriate.
yeah. Really.
It doesn't necessarily have to be rear-wheel drive, but
But 850R is a good answer, Brian.
yeah,
That's a. And what about Saabs? Where you at with the
Sob
Saabs?
story.
Saab 900.
They're not sedans, real. I mean, I guess they made a sedan, but no one ever
9,000.
wants the.
No
No
one
one
ever
wants the
wants-
sedan.
Yeah.
Nine-
Oh yeah,
9,000?
9,000's. It's still a hatchback.
It's
9,000.
kind of big.
Oh, it is?
anyways.
Oh no, they made a CSE, which is a sedan,
Yeah.
but that's also not the one you usually want.
But I think the choice here that we would all go with is a Buick Regal.
Obviously.
It's actually not. It's not bad of a car. The handles
I know,
Really?
well.
You're not gonna recommend it
Yeah, you're gonna sit in that interior.
Is that
And
legendary?
for that
transverse-
price. You're not recommending that to anybody.
I'm trying here.
I know. All right,
Transverse
Randy.
V6, right? The 3.8.
Randy.
No. This is the current Regal, the 2.0.
2016.
The new one.
2016.
Oh.
I love Brian's going back to the.
I know. He's like
2001.
NASCAR, get her done.
No,
Grog.
NASCAR's the much older one. That's
You know, it
rear-wheel
had like
drive.
black trim and stuff. I love that one, man.
That corrugated siding,
Um,
like real nice.
Randy Y. Singh says, hypothetically, if you could only own one car, disregard cargo space and seating capacity, what would it be and why?
Disregard these important factors, like
Disregard them. I don't
Yeah.
make the questions, Brian. I just answer them.
I mean, obviously it's a McLaren F1 then.
I
'cause
know,
if we're
right?
Disregarding that, we can disregard money.
Yeah,
right.
yeah, one car. But
The answer
are you
is
going to want
always
to take that
F1.
and park it at your
Yeah.
local get and go?
I
Yeah,
think you
because
could
it's
disregard
unkillable.
that too, as well. in this
It's unkillable.
question.
A $30 million car can't be totaled.
And getting it in and out of it every day?
That's a little tough.
Minor.
Not my problem. That's a seating capacity problem or something.
No, it's layout. You're gonna have to do your little gymnastics.
It's like a reason to stay healthy, Warren.
That's
Mm.
true.
Jason would have to wear his shorts all the time.
Oh,
Oh,
damn it.
No,
Yeah,
those are only
the main
for
thing for
Radwards.
me is my mind goes to F40 immediately. That's my favorite car. But then you're dealing with ground clearance issues. You're dealing with
All that.
you know,
Traffic.
and yeah, traffic. It's dude, super heavy clutch, and it's fucking hot as hell in there. So like, so
One car.
as much as yeah, 959 has been my answer for this in the past. But just because it's crazy at its pinnacle, but I know that 993 Turbo S would get me there. You know, I mean, it's giving me that sort of kind of
Jason loves that
well-rounded,
answer.
high
300
performance.
SL Roadster. Be pretty good.
That's
I
pretty
mean,
good.
until it's above 58 degrees outside and you turn to steam.
And the brakes are
The
terrible.
brakes,
and the
yeah, or you get it sideways and roll it because it's a swing axle.
head pops off.
Here's the thing. I can't ignore the packaging and I can't ignore the rest of the stuff. And it's just going to be a GTI. It's going to be a GTI or an E30.
Wow.
Hmm.
Wow.
Any
I feel like
car.
you're kind of slumming it there.
Any car, dude.
Any
You gotta get
car.
what it's really like to live with. I mean,
Jason
sure,
has an Elise. How about the Elise?
oh God, no. The pain in the dick that car is. I mean,
It's gonna need an air filter every once in a while, and you don't want to do that.
And you have to get
Start-
if you have to get out of it and back in it.
Yeah, no, it sucks as a daily driver. I mean, you know, E30s are nice as daily drivers. E30s work really well. Like my 190 2.316 would make a great daily driver, although sedans less so than hatchbacks.
Yes, Brian.
I think the answer is 911.
No.
No.
Yes, a 997 GT3 or a 996 GT3.
It's not bad.
I only say
Dude,
no because you're right.
It's
I
not
mean,
bad, dude.
Not a GT3, a GTS. A daily for daily
not a
use, I would
big-
have
Well,
I'm not a
that's-
big 911 guy, but I think it's the right
Very,
thing. You have to
very
have the back
short on the
seat, whatever.
compromises too.
I want an S.
Yeah.
I want an S65 coupe. I don't care what anyone says. Jason, you can call me old all you want.
What?
Yeah,
It's
you're
not
right.
that
What
you're
is that
old, it's
even?
You're asking at the Mercedes. You're asking for the only shitty V12 ever made.
Oh my God,
Ooh.
shitty V12.
Bam, Warren. What do you think about
Single
that?
overhead
Dude, it's the
cam.
last.
Fighting
last
words.
V12.
Damn, Lotus Carlton. I'm done.
Shut up. Shut up.
Yes.
Just
good
pick
choice.
your Civic Si, Art. I know you want to.
Lotus Carlton. I'm calling it.
No,
Manual
you're not.
transmission,
It's pretty
twin
sweet.
turbo V6, rear wheel
Straight
drive
six.
sedan.
Nice interior, good looking stealth.
Yeah.
Right-hand drive. though.
That's great. Yeah.
Right-hand
Nice
drive.
You can get the
Yeah.
German one. Get the German one. Get the
Wow.
yeah.
The
You get the
the
German one.
Opel.
I rolled my eyes there if you didn't notice.
Yeah.
It's
I
a
can't
lot
believe
to see on
it's
that's
the
called
okay.
a V6.
It's not a V6?
Straight
six. Oh shit. I don't know enough about my Lotus Carltons.
That's why I need to buy one. Damn it.
Oh, dude, if you bought one.
I've always loved that car, but not enough to know that it's not a straight six.
There's
Now I have a deal. We're gonna buy one.
Yeah,
How much
Art,
are they?
shame on you, dude.
How much are they?
that's like 40 or
They're not that-
50.
Yeah, like 50-ish.
A really, really nice one.
Yeah.
40.
Mhm.
40, yeah. And the German ones come up. I've never seen a left-hand drive.
Yeah,
I've seen them in pictures.
Well, you can't
not-
get them
not
here
per se.
yet, can you? I mean,
Yeah, they're
Is it?
92, 93.
okay,
There's
I've
a
never
couple on
seen
the
one
East
in the
Coast, yeah.
States.
Yeah. Jason, what chair are you sitting in right now?
It's a Mark II Jetta GLI Recaro. Oh,
Oh,
That's sick.
I thought it was trophy.
Yep.
that.
It's pretty nice,
Wow.
dude.
Now
That
you
is
can
really
see
nice.
my microphone too, but
Yeah,
Those are
nice
very
rug.
comfortable.
Wow.
Nice rug too. Is that a comfortable chair, or are you sacrificing for style?
no. This has been my office chair for years. I got this off some guy on Craigslist for like $50, and I welded a base to it. And 12 years, I think this has been my office chair.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
I think the ultimate chair would be like a Volvo seat of some kind.
Dude, I was texting with Drew today about V70R, like 2005 or what have you.
Yeah.
Those are so fucking comfortable. Top
All those seats are ridiculous.
Oh,
top 10
850 seats.
OEM. Top
all
10
of them,
OEM
dude.
seat. I'm gonna throw it out there. I
Top
can't
10.
think of 9 others. So it
They're
might be
so
that.
comfortable, dude. They just like you're not tired when you get out of them,
I know.
and that's
Yeah,
a
I don't
rare
think I
thing.
need quite as much like
Lateral
bolstering.
support.
I was gonna
And
say,
I do move
yeah.
around a lot, and I scream and I yell, and I'm just, but even I don't need this much lateral.
How
Yeah.
many G's do you pull in your seat when you're on a call typically?
Oh, it depends on who I'm talking to.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think that's a podcast, boys.
I think so.
Pretty good.
Then.
You guys did really good. I'm proud of you. Jason, how can people find you?
they can go to Instagram official Adam Sandler. No, I am on Instagram at Jason Cammisa, and my last name is 2 M's 1 S, so at Jason Cammisa. Or you can find me at ECME Official. That's ISSIMI Official on Instagram or YouTube. And of course, you guys probably will tag me in something. So on the Driving While Awesome stuff. Thanks
And
for
you have a
having me, guys.
podcast on iTunes, right?
We have a podcast on iTunes called The Carmudgeon Show. It's really funny because it's a play on words between a curmudgeon and a car. Get it? That's because we're nasty old bitches. So it's me and Derek Tam Scott, who I refer to as Tam-Scott because that's more fun. And we just basically take a topic and bitch about it for an hour or so once a week.
Dude, Jason, I was going to say, you obviously saw Derek's pictures of the Miura in the abandoned San Francisco.
I did not.
From
He
today.
posted today.
God damn,
Great
it
story.
so fucking cool.
So
Here's the
rad.
thing, he took the Miura out over the weekend and he was like, hey, let's get together for a sunrise. Like, I'm going for sunrise photography golden hour. And I'm thinking, golden hour? For me, golden hour on a Saturday morning is like 11 to noon. I'm not getting up. And I got up and it was crappy out. And he was like, yeah, no, it's crappy here too. So, whatever. And then went out anyway and ran into all these other amazing cars.
Yeah, I saw the 73 RS, our friends.
Yeah, 73 RS. And then there was the 365 BB that was there.
Yeah.
I'm like, holy shit. And meanwhile, I was just sitting in bed looking at Instagram.
Well, just go look at the photos from the city. Like he's on Market Street or up on Knob Hill and stuff. It's just insane.
Just in the middle of the street, like with no cars around him or anything.
Oh, crazy.
So
A
rad.
yellow Miura.
Have you driven the Miura, Jason?
I have.
Is it a dump truck or is it awesome?
It's not a dump truck. It is total sensory overload. I think honestly, the Miura is the scariest car I've ever driven. They're like, everything is nonlinear and everything has a different weight and everything responds differently. And you have a 2-volume rule book in your head that you have to keep. You can't hit the gas quickly. You can't do this quickly. You can't do that. The way the pedals are positioned versus the steering wheel, everything is exactly where you don't expect it to be. It's so loud and it's so sensory overloady that it's horrifying. But it's what makes for a terrible car when it was new makes for an incredible experience now as a collector car. And I don't think you can get more experience than a Miura.
Lots of
Sense
senses.
of occasion.
That's right.
Yeah.
Although
Yeah.
F40 could be close.
Although with a Miura, you can add, I mean, he's talking about an element of fear here, add the fact that the fuel tanks are above the front tires. So as the fuel gets used up, the front end lightens. And then if you're going 150 miles an hour with a floaty front end, that's fun.
If you go
That's
150 miles an hour in a Miura, you are my hero. And you are officially, your balls are 52 times the size of the balls from that 191 mile an hour kid who had no idea. You couldn't pay me to do 150 miles an hour in a Miura.
Wow.
80 is scary as hell.
Damn.
Really?
Cool. Yeah. I mean, it's also $1 million and it belongs to your friend's family and like everything will kill you. And you're not going to survive it if anything happens to begin with.
Oh yeah.
But like the whole thing is just, I think maybe I've gotten one up to 80 or 90, and that on a straight away, and
No.
absolutely not.
All right, we'll leave you with that. Jason, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you guys for
appreciate
having
it.
me. It was always fun.
Yeah.
Bye.
See you next time. All right.
Bye.